Hello, you're watching World Talks on TVP World. My name is Sascha Fahrbach. France could soon become the first country in Europe to ban social media for under 15-year-olds as lawmakers push ahead with legislation aimed at tackling bullying and mental health risks. But critics, from political opponents to the Council of Europe, argue the move may be overly simplistic and raise questions about children's rights. And joining us now to explore the risks and realities is Igor Protasowicki, cybersecurity expert at Vistula University. Good to have you back in the studio. Welcome.
My pleasure.
All right, so let's look at some of the, let's say, where this has come from, right? I mean, Australia, that was that example 3 months in to that ban of under 15-year-olds. I just wanted to ask you, in terms of where you see the challenges, I think enforcement is a big question, isn't it? Are they successful so far?
Depends on where, because we have many different examples of imposing such bans all over the world, beginning with China, ending in Australia recently, in the European Union. And they have different phases of the same event. Basically, always, somewhere in the background, we have the good of our children and their future education and whatever they're going to achieve in the future. But on the other end, we have the means and measures that we use to do that.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about that as well. I mean, just a quick one to jump in. France is due to vote on that in their Senate today on Tuesday, with Australia being this example, as I said. Now, that Australian law, I just want to quote here, it says platforms must show they are taking reasonable steps to keep out underage users or face fines. So looking at enforcement again in France, do you think the French will do it in any different way? Is they going to have a secret here?
Probably we're going to be facing the same phrases, reasonable steps, right? And we have some statement and no explanation what might be taken behind it. So if we're talking about European Union and freedom and human rights, and our approach to human rights all over the continent, we might be facing something new, something completely different from the approach perspective, because sometime in the future, as we spoke before the cameras, the children today, when they become adults, might sue their parents or might try to sue the platforms.
We'll get to that in a moment, but right now it's also about how this is enforced also by age verification, right? That's the key one here. So, I mean, a lot of these young teenagers, they're quite clever, but tell us a bit more technically, what are the tools available, but how could they also be potentially bypassed? What's the mechanism here? How do we ensure that really age verification is done correctly?
The easiest way would be to verify the age by the moment of creating user account in the system with providing the specific documents. Currently, we have the technology that allows us to collect data from the documents, not saving the data, like passing this part of the process outside where you just take a selfie photo with your ID alongside with your face, and then the verification of the picture with you, verification of you being alive takes place, and verification of the data on the document itself. Then this external system just lets know the administrators of the social media that would try to create your account in that it's been positively verified and you can create the account. But in that case, it's quite easy to create fake documents and to convince the system that you are who you are and you are positively verified by the age. Another version is to create and implement AI that would verify your age by your facial recognition and maybe some schematics from data collected previously from different users that is more precise the longer you use it, and it verifies with a very high rate of probability, so it can be trusted.
But however, facial recognition itself already another controversial topic.
Of course, you can use that without saving, without collecting your biometrics to the system, and age verification with AI implementation can be conducted every time you try to log into the social media or after some specific time that you've been using the social media for. That can be bypassed by the parents or some maybe older siblings or somebody else if you have a friend by your hand, for example.
So even if this does go through and these laws start to settle in, not just in France, but elsewhere in Europe and possibly the world, it's not foolproof. It means they can still be workarounds for this.
Yes, of course, and we have to remember that the parents themselves sometimes pass their devices to the children, especially to the minors, because what is better device to consume time of minors than social media on smartphone, for example.
On social media, I mean, this is the crux of the issue, but let's go back a little bit and just, I'll ask you, how did we get here to this point where different countries are trying to make these laws? I mean, it has its origins in a case in the US, doesn't it, which we also discussed?
Yes. So we have to begin with the question why. Basically, we determined that social media, besides being a time-consuming thing, is messing up with young people's minds, creating some bogus paths for their futures, making their educational process harder by making them overthink specific things. Plus, we have danger and things that may impose danger, like cyberbullying probability and high rates of actually cyberbullying that might happen in social media by contents that different people release, or by being a victim of that content by accident or in purpose.
And also you raised a point about what I come to now. I mean, on the one hand, you have governments now acting very much on the behalf on what they say is the well-being of these young people. Austria as well, going to ban social media for under 14s. That's starting in September. So it's slowly moving. Now, let's talk about the human rights angle here. This is an interesting one. So Council of Europe, the Commissioner for Human Rights, has said actually any of these laws, and I'm quoting here, and restricting access presents issues of human rights because a child has a right to receive information just like anybody else. And if any of these measures are going ahead, he's calling them neither proportionate nor necessary. So, interesting comment. What's your take on his position there?
Back in the days, it was up to the parents what sort of contents or what sort of information the children are going to receive. It was part of educational process where you received many handbooks when you attended to classes in school, high school, and so on. You collected your information. Today, when we belong to the information-based society, this information is everywhere, and social media is just the extension of the flow of information among people. So if young people are using electronic devices, and they do that on a daily basis, they might receive all kinds of information. So now, usually it would be up to the parents to create this filter of safety, to decide what sort of information could be delivered to their children. But with the amount and variety of information that we are facing today, it's going to be more and more challenging thing. That is why governments are taking over the control and try to impose this on the legal basis on the social media providers, so that they will decide what sort of content might be delivered to all the particular users.
Yeah, and speaking also of those providers, Meta, if we're looking at that major case we just discussed now, they lost. They're supposed to pay out on that landmark case. But as I think pointed out last time we spoke, there are literally thousands of others in the pipeline. Is this now the beginning of the floodgates for all this?
Well, every time we talk about large social media, we're talking about billion-dollar ventures, where from our perspective, it's something free. But in internet, besides, of course, the old rule that if something's free, you are the currency, your time is the currency, because the longer you watch, the longer you browse through social media, the longer you are exposed for the advertisements. The more information you release about yourselves, the more precise this advertising process might be. And we already proven that, it was already proven that social media, as the experiment, as the algorithm that works besides it on the back end of the social media, was created to be as time-consuming, as bonding, and as influential as possible.
But you said now there will be more cases like there were in Los Angeles?
Probably yes. That's very, very highly probable, I would say, because if we prove that something creates wrong habits, and something creates like drugs or alcohols, the ways to abuse it, it affects our health. It might be controlled on the state level.
Just, I'm conscious of the time, just quick 20 seconds. Digital Services Act as well has components to help out in terms of making sure that no minors access no targeted ads. Some would say, is that not already enough?
Yeah, but if we're talking about addictive stuff, the future problems with human health are going to be reflected in states' budgets, so probably yes.
All right, so look, this is a complicated one on different levels. As we said, the international scope will continue. Thanks so much for coming in and sharing all that information with us here. That was Igor Protasowicki, cybersecurity expert from Vistula University.
My pleasure as always.
And thank you for watching. That concludes World Talks, but stay right here on TVP World for more. Goodbye.